These are all the things you're supposed to eat during Chinese New Year or Lunar New Year, according to a Cantonese person. Now, I say specifically Cantonese people because there are foods that both Mandarin people eat and Cantonese people eat, and there's foods that only Cantonese people eat. And this really has to do with what the words are called and what other words they sound like. So I'll go over the foods that we share similarly and then the foods that are different. The first one is fish, right? Everyone knows fish. So the reason why we eat fish is because there's a saying, which is 领领有余, which basically means every year you have surplus. The word yu, which means surplus, also sounds like the word yu, which means fish. So that's why we eat fish. The other reason why we might eat fish is also because there's another saying that is 有头有尾, which means there's a head and there's a tail. Basically, like your complete, like your year, it should have a beginning and it should have an end, right? So those are the two reasons why we eat fish over New Year's. Another thing we have to eat is chicken. So the reason why we have chicken isn't necessarily because there's some type of like special phrase that doesn't sound like anything. It's more so back then when you're farmers, right? You'd rather have your chicken lay eggs and you have like a constant supply of food rather than kill off the chicken. So the only time you get to eat chicken is the most important day of the year, during New Year's. So that's why you eat chicken. When you eat chicken, the plate has to have the head and it has to have the tail. Otherwise, you don't follow the 有头有尾, right? So you have to follow the has a tail, has a head, like for wholeness, for completeness, etc. The next thing is cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria, that sounds delicious. So cyanobacteria is a type of algae, almost like a moss, that's kind of like black and stringy, right? And because it's black and stringy, the Chinese name for it directly translates to hair vegetable, because it looks like hair, right? So then the Chinese word is fa cui, right? But that sounds very similar to, you know, 恭喜发财, right? 恭喜发财, right? So it sounds like fa cui, which means to like be lucky, right? Or like to strike fortune or whatever, right? That's why we eat basically algae. Fa cui, which means hair vegetable, sounds very similar to fa cui, which is like good luck. So the next thing we eat is pistachios. Why do we eat pistachios? So have you ever noticed that pistachios, they're always open in the middle, right? So the Chinese word for pistachio is 開心果, which basically means open heart nut. The phrase open heart also directly translates to happy. So 開心果, open heart nut, sounds like happiness nut. That's why we eat pistachios, because it's a happiness nut. You want happiness in the new year. Next thing, tangerines or cuties, whatever, right? The reason why we eat that is because the Chinese word for tangerine is 桔, which sounds very similar to luck, right? If you know the phrase 大吉大利, it means good luck and good fortune, right? So the word tangerine sounds just like the word for luck. The other reason why we might eat tangerines and also anything else that's round, so like think sesame balls, fish balls, or like whatever, is because they're round, so it kind of represents like wholeness, like everything's whole, everything's complete, that type of like perfectly round stuff. Those things would fall under that category of just being things that you eat because it's whole. The next thing is going to be green onion. So why do we eat green onion? So the word green onion in Chinese is 聪, and 聪 sounds very similar to 聪明, which means like very smart, intelligent. So that's why you also feed it to little kids, because if you eat 葱, green onion, you'll become 聪明, smart. The last thing that I can think of that Mandarin people and Cantonese people share in common with what they eat during New Year's is going to be glutinous rice cake, or 年糕 in Chinese. Why? Because the name directly translates to year cake. So you have to eat year cake during New Year's, right? Year cake or glutinous rice cake. And it can be either savory or sweet. Chinese people will usually eat like tteokbokki style, like when it's small. It'll usually be savory, and it'll usually be like a soy-based stir fry. Or you can steam it in a cake. It'll be steamed with brown sugar. Sometimes they put coconut milk, and they'll put like sesame on top. And that's really fun to eat, really chewy. So yeah, those are the things that we share in common. Now, what foods do specifically only Cantonese people really eat? So first of all, if you notice, I didn't really say dumpling. I don't really see that many Cantonese people eating like specifically dumplings for New Year's. We eat a host of other different stuff. For example, one thing that we specifically eat in New Year's is going to be either lobster or shrimp. So the reason why we eat lobster or shrimp is because the Cantonese word for shrimp is ha, and the Cantonese word for lobster is long ha, which is just dragon shrimp, right? So in both cases it has a ha word, right? Ha just sounds like you're laughing, right? Ha 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 ha, right? Which is why you would want to eat shrimp, right? You want laughter in the New Year, so then you eat ha, because then you eat, so then you become ha 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 ha, right? Whereas the Mandarin word for shrimp is sha, so that like no laugh, sha sha sha, right? So that's why Cantonese people specifically choose to eat shrimp during the New Year's for laughter in the New Year, whereas Mandarin people not so much. Another thing that we eat is oyster. So most of these words, they'll just be different because the Mandarin way of saying it is either different or they use a different word than the Cantonese word. So another word would be oyster. The Cantonese word for oyster is ho si, and ho si sounds very similar to ho si, which means good things, right? Good stuff. It also sounds like the phrase for good. Next thing. There's a lot of food, right? There's a lot of food. Next food that mainly Cantonese people eat would be tongue. So lengua. Could be pig tongue, could be beef tongue, just some type of tongue. Going back to the phrase daiga daile, which directly translates to good luck, good fortune. So the word tongue, lei, sounds like the word fortune, lei. So the word tongue sounds like the word fortune. Another thing that a lot of I haven't seen many Mandarin people eat, but then we eat pig knuckle. We eat pig knuckle, or like pig hand, right? Or pig trotter, I guess that's the word. And we'll only really eat that with the cyanobacteria, which is the algae that I spoke about earlier, the fat soy. Why? When you eat those together, the fat soy, which is the fortune or the luck, enters the hand, which is the pig hand, right? So there's a phrase, fat soy do sao. So it means like you have achieved fortune because you have achieved fortune, right? The fortune or the hair, the bacteria, the algae, right, has entered your hand. So so it's like a phrase that's like, oh, you'll be lucky, like you became lucky this year. So fat soy do sao. Next thing, sea cucumber. For all the people that aren't Cantonese that haven't had sea cucumber, just straight out, it looks like a turd. It looks like a piece of shit. Like here's a picture. Why do we eat sea cucumber, even though it looks like poop? It's because the Cantonese word for sea cucumber is hoi sum, which again, if you remember from earlier, why do we eat pistachios? Hoi sum go is pistachio, which sounds like happiness nut, right? Hoi sum is sea cucumber, which also sounds like hoi sum. So you eat sea cucumber because it also sounds like the word happy in Chinese. Next thing, we eat taro cake or radish cake. That sounds disgusting. What the hell is a taro cake and radish cake? It's actually really, really good. Okay, I don't know why, but all my Korean friends really, really like radish cake. So like if you want to impress a Korean friend, make them radish cake. I have some right now, right here. So the darker one is taro cake, and the lighter one up here is radish cake. I'm not sure why specifically. I think it just has to do with it being cake, right? So then cake in Chinese is go, and then like if you want to say happy or like up like happy attitude, it'd be like go heng. If you want to say, so it just kind of means, I guess it means happy, but I think it's just like they just want cake and it tastes delicious. So it's like, why not just make cake, right? Let them eat cake. Let them eat radish cake and taro cake. And legit, next time you go to dim sum, if you've never had taro cake and radish cake, it is so good, especially when you pan fry it afterwards. Oh, that is so good. And I don't know why Koreans love radish cake so much. But yeah, it's really, really good. So I definitely give it a try. Next thing would be almost like a Chinese cupcake. And it's like a Chinese cupcake, sponge cake type thing. Where you use this rice flour to make it. And then you put like a lot of baking powder and baking soda into it. And then it expands a lot, right? So you call it fat go, which means fat means to like rise, right? But it also sounds like fat toy, right? Like gong hei fat toy. So that's why we eat it. If you ever enter like a Chinese bakery or a Chinese restaurant and you see like these cupcakes that are like pink or yellow or like gold, right? Those are usually eaten during New Year's just because of again, it sounds very similar, like fat toy, fat go. If you realize by now, everything is just like, oh, it sounds like that one word. This sounds like that one word. That's all Chinese superstitions ever. Think about why we like the number 8, right? It's because 8 bot sounds like the word fought. We're just like infatuated with that word. And then another thing that we also eat is arrowroot, which is in Chinese it's qigu. It's called qigu because it looks like a mushroom, but it isn't a mushroom. And we only eat it if someone is expecting, and then like okay, like Chinese people, they like it's not a secret that Chinese people really want like sons, right? So then like if you're expecting or whatever, and then you want your kid to be a son, then you'll eat qigu, arrowroot, because you want a son, right? Obviously, I don't know about now anymore, but then, like that's just something that's always there. Arrowroot, right? We eat it because it looks like a, right? It looks like a male body part. Honestly, there's so many other foods that look like it, but yeah, we like if someone's expecting and they want a son, then you eat that because it looks like that. And the last kind of dish, it's not really a dish, but the last thing that we'll eat is something called poon choy. Poon choy is literally just you get all your expensive stuff and you throw it in a pot, and that's basically it. So like this will be things like abalone, sea cucumber is really expensive, fish maw, which is fish stomach, that's really expensive. You'll put chicken in it, and you kind of put like basically all the good stuff, and you just throw it on a bowl, just a big bowl, and that's what it is, right? It's called poon choy, which literally just translates to a bucket of food, just a bucket of food, and it's there's no like second meaning. It's just like it's kind of just like if you imagine back then when like it was like people were a lot poorer, right? You kind of gather all your expensive stuff and just toss it in a plate. And like these, if you've ever seen like a Chinese restaurant, you see the banners, right? It'll be like $288, $388, and they'll just have like a bucket of shit. That's what it is. And oftentimes it looks so bad because half the things in there are just like black. Because they have the fat toy, the moss that I talked about earlier, black. Sea cucumber, black and looks like a turd. They'll put oyster sometimes in it. When they cook it and braise it in soy, looks like a turd. And like I guess the one thing that will not look like a turd is either the vegetable on the bottom, or abalone also looks like a turd. But anyways, the one thing that won't look like a turd is the vegetable on the bottom and maybe the chicken if they have it. I don't know. And I guess the last thing I can think of is like they have just a bunch of snacks, right? A bunch of fried foods. I don't know why specifically for those, but then there's Lai ton, which is red envelope candy, which is basically just a sweet like strawberry flavored like candy, hard candy. I don't. It just called Lai ton. It's just called red envelope candy. So like you gotta eat it. Something like a rolled cookie type thing. In Mandarin, it's called cat ear cookie, and in Cantonese, it's cow ear cookie. So ao yi is Cantonese, mao yi is Mandarin. Instead of eating dumplings, I guess Cantonese people will eat like this fried, almost like a fried dumpling. So inside, it would be like nuts and coconut shavings and sugar, and they fry that, and it looks like a little like I guess semicircle thing. So those are the differences and similarities between Cantonese, what Cantonese people eat, and what Mandarin people eat. Cantonese people just really like eating, I guess, and they really like the word font. So, Happy New Year.